Those are handsome shoes.
Easy now, it's almost over.
So let's compare them. I wouldn't recommend them if you're going to do a lot of walking.
Now nights are colder.
So today we need to invent a way to make perfectly round 1-inch oak wooden dowels. And to make it even more challenging, we're going to attempt it in wooden shoes. So these are the wooden shoes that I bought while I was in Holland last week. And actually, this is the largest size that they make, and they fit perfectly for me. But I have one issue. Heart Racer, where'd you come from? You're all wet. Oh, good grief. Heart Racer goes, she's soaking wet. She runs with Mrs. W. Up to 3 miles. She's only good for 3 miles. So one problem I have out the get-go, there's not a lot of shoes that I can wear, ski boots, all those things, many things I have to have kind of custom made because, well, back in the day I used to race BMX bikes and I had a bad crash and I broke my foot and I've got this big bump that sticks out right there and it's really sore. So, like when I do ski boots and everything, it's all got to be cut up. If you look there, right here, my foot, at that bump right there hits on that wood. It's not very comfortable. But I guess the nice thing about wooden shoes is they're very easily customizable. So of course, more than one of you are going to ask, why would anyone in their right mind wear wooden shoes? And I have to say, I would have said the same thing until I went to Holland, and I thought it was kind of just it was an old-fashioned thing or a touristy thing that they would sell to people that were visiting. But what I found was a lot of the millwrights and the guys that were working in those mills, they were actually wearing them. I mean, I was just godsmacked, and I looked down and there was a guy working in the mill doing, on the chain there, wearing these wooden shoes. And I talked to him about it and I asked him about it, and he wasn't doing it just to be silly. That's what he worked in. He worked in them 5 days a week, and I met several guys that had done that, and I thought it was so cool. I mean, it really pays homage to the Dutch tradition. I mean, there's been many countries wore wooden shoes. I mean, I think the English, I know the French did, and it's intriguing that you could actually make your own shoes, because that's one thing that I would say that there's almost none of us that can do. I mean, can you honestly say you can go make yourself a pair of shoes that it would be durable, that you could work in and stand in all day and be comfortable? I can't. I mean, that's a very specialized trade, but could you make a wooden shoe? Could you take a tool like this, and even if it took you a couple days or a day or two to do it, it's still, you'd have a good shoe. And, I like clogs. I've worn, my favorite shoes, the best shoes in the world, most comfortable for being on your feet on concrete all day, are the Danish Dansko shoes that I wear. And these have a very similar feeling to that. They're very comfortable to me. So am I going to wear these all the time? No, of course not. But I think it's intriguing. Another thing that I learned that the guy was telling me is that in Holland, they actually consider these to be a safety shoe in industrial applications, like a steel-toed boot. And he was smashing them together like really hard, and they were really durable. So I thought it was kind of interesting. It'd be a fun experiment. Maybe it's something I'll wear around when I'm standing or doing woodworking. I think it's cool. Okay, so let's see if that works. Cuts out for my little foot defect. All right, check it out. Totally customizable. Let's see you do that with your nicks. All right, so this is the first wooden dowel or oak pin that I made by hand out of from a billet of oak that I had, and it's not too bad. It's really difficult to make an oak dowel out of a square piece that's uniformed, and I basically just used the small low angle block plane and just did this by eyesight. So I've drilled but I'm afraid it's not super uniform. Like if we look at the end there, you can see, here's the other, I did the whole thing at one time. So this is a 12-inch, so I drilled a 1-inch hole here. And let's take a look and see how the fit is. So far so good. And of course, here's the problem with doing these things by hand like that. That's you just get, they're not perfectly round. We're dealing with a perfectly round hole and a peg that's just not very satisfactory. It doesn't look very nice. And would it work? Yeah, of course it would work. But we need to figure out a way to get these things perfectly round. Of course, you can buy them. I don't want to buy one. I want to try to make these things. I want to learn how to do these things. So I have an idea for a jig that I think we can make a perfectly round oak dowel. All right, so we need the raw materials. I think I know just the thing. It's pouring down rain today, so if you hear it sounds a little noisy. Wooden shoes. Sound a little bit noisy, it's because there's rain on the roof. But let's go down and we'll get our raw material.
It's almost over.
Uh-oh.
The fever will run out. Now the nights are colder. Who will lift your face to see how the stars shine bright?
Here is the perfect thing, I think, to make our dowel machine. So the previous owners had left this, oh, I knew it was going to happen. I should have brought my hammer. Had left this tank here. It's got this 1-inch nipple on it. Oh, back to the shop for the mallet. Pipe wrench, the cornerstone of Western civilization. Perfect. Okay, so this is a 1-inch standard water pipe nipple. And when you say 1 inch, when you're referring to pipes, it's got nothing to do with the outside. It's the ID, the inside diameter is always the size, 3/4, 1/2 inch, all that. The reason for that, you don't measure the outside, is because pipe has varying wall thicknesses, whether it's Schedule 40, Schedule 80, more pressures, different materials are always fluctuating. One thing that's always consistent, or pretty consistent, is the inside diameter, the ID. So this tool right here, this is a leather punch. And you see how it's designed to work. You gonna focus? I guess we can't focus. All right, come on, Canon. This is a leather punch, and you can see the idea is for it, it's got a tapered, very sharp edge on it. You put it on the leather, you tap it, and then you make a hole. So why can't we take the same principle and use it for sizing the oak dowel? So what if we take this nipple here and sharpen this edge, so it's very sharp, put it on a base, or figure out some way that we can drive our wooden dowel through this, cutting and having some uniformity, a uniform size. Why won't that work? You can see right there, this is the one that I handmade. Not very uniform. One side fits, the other doesn't fit. I don't know, maybe it won't work, maybe it will, but let's build it and see. So this is the bit that I'll be using this is the 1-inch bit that I'll be using for cutting the holes. And of course, so we can see that is just a near perfect fit. Just a little bit of dragging on the side. I mean, it's just ideal, but I can spin it. So if the oak dowel passes through this, I'm pretty confident that it'll be just about the right size for this drill bit, the hole. So if I had a metal lathe, I could make short work of this, cut that down there really nice, but I don't. So I'm going to use my bench grinder and just freehand it. All right, that's a pretty good start right there. Just roughing it out there, but we've got a lot of work to do by hand. We got to get that burr out of there, and this is going to have to be a smooth, highly polished, well, it doesn't need to be, I think, but the smoother it is, the better it's going to cut, better dowel we're going to make. So let's put this in the vise and we'll touch it up with a file and start putting a nice edge on it. So I can certainly feel there's a lip on there. I'll take this, I'm just going to use this small chainsaw file, rat tail file, and get that all off there. No, it's not too bad. It's just a little bit of a lip on the bottom. So I've got a nice, real high quality, fine mill file here. And those that bench grinder is pretty coarse. I'm gonna be careful because I have we do have a nice uniform radius on there, but this will bring it up to a little bit. I can work in that point now. Oh, that's a nice file. Necessity is the mother of invention. I really don't know if it's necessary to go more than that, but we can try it here. Here's a nice thing about the diamond stone. Oh, it's in there pretty tight there. The wood must have swollen up. All right. Huh. There we go. Is you can take them out of there and use them on lots of different applications here. Let's see what happens here. So the diamond stones are working really good. So here's how it finished out with that 1200 diamond. It's got a nice edge on it. I don't know if this is going to work or not. It seems like it might. So before we go any further or build a base or anything, let's see what it does. So I'm suspecting this is going to be a bit greedy here. We got a 1-inch billet here of oak. Now I ripped this down exactly 1 inch by 1 inch on the table saw. It would be better if you had a round of oak with straight grain to split it, and that way you don't cut across the grains. It wouldn't be as strong this way. I just don't have any rounds. This is the only thing I have, so this is what I have to make do with. But I think it might be a bit much to try to drive that through there without knocking the corners off, but let's try it. I just found this, look at this. I bet you've never seen one of these before. I know I haven't. This was in my granddad's things. It's about a 5 pound, just a steel basher. Man, it feels great in the hand, and it might be perfect for knocking these wedges in. All right, let's see what happens if we just try to do the whole thing, to eat the whole thing in one bite here. So we'll just line this up so I don't see any, make sure I'm squared on there. I took my finger in there with it. I really don't expect this is going to work, but we got to try it, right? It's getting awfully difficult to hit. Yeah, it's not going in straight. It's not working. It's actually not working at all. Look at that. Yeah, that's not going to work. All right, let's try something else here. All right, so we'll take our brass drift here. Actually, that feels a little tight in there. Let's try this one here. Pound this back out. So I do think we may be onto something. So let's compare the two. So here, this is the one here that we just drove through, and I was getting off center. It wasn't working very well, but it is very uniform. Compare it to the one that I made freehand. There's no comparison there. So I think we're definitely on to something, but I think we're trying to take too much wood off. Let's take the plane and knock these 45s off real quickly, and then drive it back through and see if that doesn't solve our problem. If we chalk this up here, right there, right? I'm going to use my number 4 Stanley here, and we'll knock the corners off. Not too much. We don't want to go make it smaller than our 1 inch. Looks pretty good there. So we'll have to do this on all 4 sides. Have to say, I'm liking the wood shoes just fine. I guess I've been working in them for an hour and hadn't even thought about them. I guess that's a good sign. I wouldn't recommend them if you're going to do a lot of walking. But if you're just if you're standing in the shop, maybe standing at your woodworking bench or something, or they seem to be quite comfortable. They have a wonderful arch in them. I mean, I'm very familiar with. I like that Scandinavian style of footbed arch, like in the Dansko clogs. So it feels very natural to me. I like it. It's very comfortable. I feel like I have a good range of motion, and I'm just standing on a comfortable surface. Okay, so I knocked some of those corners off there. You can kind of see the shape. It's still pretty square, but less material. So we were kind of going crooked. So let's flip it over. Let's pound it through there again and see what happens this time. So I think a greater effort needs to be made in making sure that when it starts centered. We'll flip it around the other side. I may have taken a little bit, yeah, I can say it took a little bit too much material off on there. Let's keep going, let's see what happens. So I don't know how that's working. It doesn't seem to be cutting a great deal. I don't know if it's just compressing the wood. I bottomed out there on the anvil, so let's take it over to the vise and we'll use a drift and put it the rest of the way through, and then try it in our hole and see how it compares to the one I made the first one. Well, it is shaving off the sides. I think I gotta be a little bit more careful and not take so much material off with the hand plane. It's not a easy thing here, pounding that through there. I'm going to switch over to my soft hammer because I don't want to mar the cutting edge. Okay, it's going through better now. I'm going to use a brass drift here to push it the rest of the way through. Why brass? Because I can't find my steel one. Heart of oak. You're the keeper of the flame in a time where so much is at stake. And I wish you well, pure-hearted oak. Can't be bought or sold, not the heart of oak. And from little acorns grow the mighty oaks. So you could whittle those points on there with your knife, but it's a little hard going. I think a draw knife might be the better tool for the job. Let's do the comparison here. We got two 1-inch holes. We've got, let's see, which one's which. On the right-hand side, we've got my handmade one. And this left-hand side, we've got the one driven through the water pipe. I'm not going to say it was a total failure, but pretty much. But let's see. All right. Let's see how they go in. Left one, number 2, is tighter. Now that certainly is interesting. So this is the one I made by hand. You can see it's too loose. I can push it with my finger. This one, the one that we drove through the, I guess the mandrel, it is good and tight. It fit through there good. It felt like it had about the right amount of resistance. So even though it wasn't perfectly round, I'd have to say that actually works. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's see what was it like working with wooden shoes.